Hi, and welcome to Life, Death, and the Space Between. This episode today with Prune Harris is going to make you understand energy systems, and chakras so clearly. I went into this podcast episode really kind of unclear on how all these systems work together, all the energy systems, and how they correspond with also the physical systems that we have in our body. And Prune made it so clear for me that suddenly everything clicked and made sense. So I'm so excited for you to hear this discussion. Prune is an incredible energy healer. She's got a new book out called Your Radiant Soul. Understand your energy and transform the world. And I can attest to the fact that she definitely helped me understand energy, and I know that she will help you understand it too. And with that, here's today's episode of Life, Death, and the Space Between. Welcome, Prune, to Life, Death, and the Space Between podcast.
Thanks, Amy. I'm really delighted to be here and have this great conversation with you.
Likewise, I've been waiting for this talk for so long. I feel like it took us a little bit to kind of sync up, but here we are. So I'm going to start with the question, how did you get your name?
I was ready for a big hitter there. Right, I was ready to go straight into life after death, and it's my name.
We'll get there because I think it's the segue to that, right?
Well, my name, I got to tell you that my real name, the name on my birth certificate, the name on my bank account, not the name that anyone calls me by, is Victoria. And when I was born, I was one of twins, and my twin died. I was very, very premature, or we were very premature. And I was little and black and wrinkled. And there is a type of plum called a Victoria plum. And one of my sisters, who was 11, knew that there was such a thing as a Victoria plum. And it was big and juicy and glorious. And here I was. She looked at me when I was 1 hour old, and I was little and black and wrinkled. And she said, "She can't be a Victoria plum. She looks like a prune." And that was it. 1 hour old, and I'm now 50, and I've never been called anything other than Prune.
And tell us about your entry kind of into this world, into the physical world, and how that, do you think that kind of informed in any way your entry into this energetic space?
Yeah, I think so, very much. So my twin died a little while before we were born, and I have very clear memories of being in the womb with her. I remember the exchange between us as, in effect, we contracted at that point which one of us was going to stay and which one was going to go. And in her grace, my grace, the decision was that I would come for us and live here, live my life, and that she would move back into that amazing, what I would call spirit world, and live her life. And that bond between us has never gone. I would say over the last 15 or so years, it's adjusted slightly. For the first many years of my life, I would say that I was as much in her world as I was in this physical world. So very much walking with one foot in this living consensual reality world, and one in that place of expanded consciousness or non-ordinary consciousness. So it was very familiar to me. I spent a lot of my time in that space with her. So it really informed a lot of my capacity to perceive the invisible, experience a space between things physical, not just the physical themselves.
And how did you feel her presence? I mean, at such a young age, you knew.
Yeah. That's a really fascinating question, Amy, and I can't honestly, it would almost be like me saying, how do you feel your arm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you feel it because it's an integral part of you, don't you? I can see her then and now, but I don't need to see her to have that living, working relationship with her. I feel at times, obviously, twinning energy is very distinct, isn't it? It's a unique form of energy. And I feel at times, especially with hindsight, as I looked back, I'm curious how much in my early years and my teen years, and even up to almost my late 20s, were she and I living through my one physical body instead of just me. Yeah, which isn't always the healthiest. I've done a lot of work shamanically with twins and people who are holding perhaps too strongly the energy field of a beloved of theirs, in this case, a deceased twin. But what tended to show up in my system was my heart. That the capacity for my heart organ in this physical world to sustain two energy systems, essentially, began to get very, very compromised. And yes, that took some understanding, education, and then some interesting kind of shifts of energy so that she can be fully housed in the spirit world and I can be fully housed here in the physical realm, and we still be just as connected as we ever were, but no longer that my body system, my actual physicality, is being stretched too far. That makes sense, Amy?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's so fascinating. I feel like we could go down that road and that could be the entire podcast because I'm so curious about all of that. But I'm going to tie back to it a little later because I do have questions about the heart field. But when you're talking about energy systems, energy anatomy, and vibration, can you describe those three parts for us and how they function together?
Yeah. Remind me the first part, Amy.
Energy systems.
Okay. So energy anatomy, let's just start there. Energy anatomy is the understanding that we have a energy anatomy just as we have a physical anatomy. So we're familiar with different systems like the respiratory system and the circulatory system and all of the other amazing systems that we have in our physical body. Well, we have the same energetically as well. So most of your listeners will be very, very familiar with the chakras, the aura or the biofield, even the heart field and its huge electromagnetic energy. Our energy channels, the organ meridians, the extraordinary vessels, and if they're trained Ayurvedically, they may be familiar with the Nadi systems, and then the amazing pulsing elemental energies that we're housing and formed by in every way. So we've got these 6 different systems. The 6th is the energetic core, this amazing let's say soul structure that we have deep, the very deepest part of our energy anatomy. So all of them together make one whole, just like all of your various physiological systems make one whole.
So it's basically like looking at your nervous system, your immune system, your blood vessels, like all of that kind of through an energetic lens.
That is exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we think about vibration, which I think was the third part of that question, then all of that together helps create you as a single energetic vibration. Now, not separate, you're vibrating, you are an incredible field of energy. Everything you are is energy, every thought, every feeling, every emotion, everything you are is energy. And that one energy field that is yours vibrates and radiates. Think about kind of yourself as an amazing energy beacon, and you're sending those ripples of energy out into the world, and simultaneously you're receiving the ripples of energy from every other energetic being meaning everything in the cosmos. So you're in this incredible exchange of energetic information every second of every day and night.
So when you talk about vibration, and people throw this word around, vibrate at a higher level, what does that mean? What is happening? It's happening in the energetic body, right? Or is it also simultaneously happening in the physical body?
Yeah, absolutely. I would perceive it. Well, for a start, I wouldn't separate them. So your energetic body and your physical body are the same thing. Your physicality is simply denser, isn't it? Now, we know enough about our energy fields, even if we don't go diving into quantum understandings, that matter is energy as well. So there are a few differences between your physical body and your energy fields. And really, the only one of importance is speed of communication, speed of healing, speed of movement, because your energy systems are much, much quicker because they don't have to work through the vibration of such dense matter as cells or particles, blood. Yeah. That's not to say that your blood and your cells aren't energy. They are.
Mm-hmm.
And they carry information. One of the things I'd really encourage is anytime we think of energy, just flip it to mean information, because energy are fields or waves of information. So if you think of yourself as this amazing field of information, always in relationship and exchange with other amazing fields of information.
So that's how we kind of can begin to translate perhaps where our own energy is, right? And I think we do this all the time, right? We say my energy is low, or I don't like the energy of that space, or I didn't like that person's energy. So we use these terms. And then when it comes time to actually talk about it in terms of how it can affect our system, we kind of push it off as nonsense.
Yeah, push it off for nonsense. Or I think even more every day in our life is that we simply don't have the language, do we? We don't really know how to talk about the fact. We can say, oh, my energy is low today, but we can't then take the next step, which is why I love teaching about energy, to say, my energy is feeling really low today. What's going on? Or I think my aura is pretty depleted. Oh, I wonder what's caused that. Maybe I think it was that conversation yesterday. I really lost my balance in it. Okay, well then let's do this simple practice to restore my aura, so I move more into my fullness, so I can go back and figure out what was going on in that conversation, why it affected me, and how I can address it within myself. So understanding your energy means that you're always able to nurture yourself, nurture your energy, because if you can understand your energy, you're able to continually help support that kind of magnificence energy, which is always moving from deep inside you out through everything that you are. But, it's easy in our daily life to get patterns or glitches in our understandings, shadows, triggers, whatever word we want to call them. And those are simply energy too. So knowing how to bring resolution or healing energetically is much, much quicker than trying to wade your way through those little kind of what I like to think of as glitches or imbalances in your energy field in other ways.
Oh, this just crystallized for me. It's interesting. I called my sister yesterday morning and she answered the phone and I could tell she was like so irritable. And I said, what's going on? Are you okay? And she said, I just woke up so irritable. Like I don't know what's going on. I just am so irritated. And then literally not 2 seconds later, she's like, I think I know what it is. And I can tell you what it is because it's actually quite a beautiful story. But my sister and brother-in-law lived in New York for a long time, and they lived in this apartment next to this woman who was older. And as she's kind of gotten older and sicker, she's really struggled. She's on her own. She has no family, no one. They eventually were able to get her into a nursing home there, but the nursing home was not taking good care of her. And so my brother-in-law, God bless him, he is going straight to heaven, moved her from New York to Chicago so he could keep an eye on her. But my sister was feeling the weight of the excessive responsibility that would then put on her, having this woman here helping her. And she was really torn because she knew it was a good thing, but she also felt like it was another burden. So that, I think, is illuminating exactly what you're talking about here, right?
Yeah, I love that. And what a beautiful, powerful story.
Finally, after so many years of you supporting the podcast, which I am so grateful for those of you who have supported the podcast on Patreon, thank you. It has truly been what has allowed me to keep going with this. And you've heard me say this over and over again. But I finally have an online community. So if you are currently a supporter of the podcast through Patreon, you should have received an email. If you are not yet a supporter of the podcast and want to join the Space Between community, now is your chance. Make sure you get on Patreon at you can just put in Dr. Amy Robbins and it will come up. And if you will become a supporter, you will get added to my community. Also, if you don't want to be a supporter, you can join my newsletter, which is a great way to get more information about the things I'm working on, upcoming events. The community just gives you a way more insider track, access to me, access to conversations, questions, quarterly Q&As for my highest subscribers. So come on over and join us in the Space Between community.
And when we think about the liver energy in the body system, liver is the energy that is responsible for really moving all of that energy in your system. So think about the times when you are a very, very dynamic person. You have a lot of that liver energy moving through your system. It's kind of the easy courage. It's the warriorship. It's the determination. It's the amazing justice warrior in the world. That would be one of the kind of archetypes of that liver energy. So here is your beautiful sister and her beautiful man, and they are acting in that place of justice warrior. And at the same time, that's deeply frustrating, isn't it? Why can't the home do the job that they're supposed to do and actually love, care, and nurture this elder woman? Mm-hmm. Why is it falling upon them? So that's that place of liver getting angsty, liver getting frustrated. Yes, they're showing up, but why on earth do they have to? So total sense. And also I suspect that as she understood that, well, anytime we bring our consciousness to our energy fields are fields of consciousness. So anytime we can carry understanding, wisdom, consciousness, then in this case, the liver organ can simply say, yeah, I got it. I understand now. And it moves in much more flow. And that in itself will help the irritation go. So really beautiful understanding of something that was congested in a part of the energy system, happened to also be a physical part of the system, how understanding and consciousness help that energy flow again, meaning that the irritation could calm down.
So when you work with someone, do you just then focus on the energy solely? Or I'm always trying to understand too, the psychological, the energetic, the spiritual, how the two can fit together. Do you just focus then on clearing out the liver, and there doesn't necessarily need to be a recognition of what caused that irritability?
It really depends, Amy, as you well know. For some people, making sense is an essential part of what brings spaciousness and what aids consciousness for them. For other people, making sense of it gives them a story that they'll attach to even more strongly. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So then it really depends. To be able to bring healing energy into that area of imbalance, the story is not necessary. But that doesn't mean that it can't be powerful medicine in itself. So I think for me, obviously, energetic is it's not like there's physiological, psychological, energetic. It's all the same. Every thought is energy. Every physical experiencing is energy. So then how to bring that balance back into the system, how to enhance the spaciousness in an individual's being. Let's say we could use energy system, we could use mindfulness, whatever we want, how to enhance the spaciousness in their being so that actually all things can flow and move back into that pattern of health. I think that's the way I would look at that. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then how do we then transpose, is that the right word? The elemental rhythms into this?
The elemental rhythm. So this is based in just about every tradition that there has understood the place of a fundamental elemental base to our psyches or our energy systems, whatever cosmological framework that individual or culture is working within. Yeah. I'm trained in the Chinese 5 rhythms. So those elemental rhythms of water, fire, earth, air, and wood. And it's a pulse that moves through you at your deepest levels. Essentially, let's just consider for a minute that we are walking around in our various parts here on Earth. And that Earth is made up of those key elements, just as the planets are, just as the cosmos is. Now, we've got all of the what we could call heavenly energies. Everything that's above us, could call it cosmic as well. And our energy system receives that in through various parts of our energetic anatomy. But it receives that information and vibration in. At the same time, we're here alive on Earth. So it's informed by these amazing elemental energies of our planet, the Earth. And as they meet in us, they create and then resonate out through all that we are. So someone who is very fiery, that's a very kind of common term, I think. We might say, oh, he's really fiery or she's really fiery. No one says
they're really watery.
No, watery. Maybe we get an understanding, though. If we think of someone being watery, what might that? For me, obviously, I'm trained in these understandings, but watery means fluid, yeah? If I'm thinking of someone who's very watery in their energy, I'm not thinking of that big, either raging wildflower, or even a fire, or even that kind of beautiful heart flame, the hearth in a home. So fire has many kind of parts of its spectrum, just as water does. But when we think about maybe the big earthy people, again, that's a term that we would use, I think. I would certainly use it.
They're so down to earth.
Exactly.
They're so grounded.
Yeah.
Right.
That sort of loving, compassionate energy. We could think archetypally people with strong earth energy have jobs that often involve in them helping other peoples in their transformations or transitions. So teachers or midwives, that kind of energy. While people who are very fiery, maybe they're our artists, they're our performers in our world. Watery people, maybe the poets, they may be the painters, the deep thinkers and philosophers. The wood people are the real go-getters. Yeah, they leap forward. They have that big, strong energy. They're the warriors as well, just as we were talking about your sister. And then the metal or air, that's another way that we could describe them, are the people who really have that kind of desire to bring precision or excellence into any situation. So just there in those 5 types, and we all house all of those 5 rhythms, not in any way are we only one or only 2. We house all of them, but in very different ratios. So in your beautiful system, one of the dominant ones is that wood energy, that energy of the warrior, that willingness to speak your truth and to bring truth into other people's awareness. And it means that you have a strong body, a physically strong body. Someone maybe a water might not have such strength, but if someone came and tried to give you a shove, Amy, you'd probably shove them right back, or at least you'd still be able to be standing there with your feet firmly on the ground. Yeah, physical strength, and that deep kindness. The wood energies carry amazing kindness. Now, none of this is a profiling system. Sometimes when I teach about the 5 elements, I'll get that question. It's the way your vibration pulses in the world. And because of that, it determines everything about the pulse of your physicality, the way your voice might sound, the way you might laugh, the way you may walk. Even without having seen you walk, Amy, I know that when you walk on this earth as a physical presence. While someone who is a metal might almost look like they glide across the ground. So it's a deep thrumming that's from inside you and determines everything about you. Not in a predetermined way, but in how you show up in the world.
And you sense that energetically, or is that something that I would look at the descriptions? I did look at the descriptions and was like, this is where I am.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. It can be either, isn't it? Like anything, the more you know about something, the more quickly you're able to identify it, whether that's in yourself, in loved ones, in work colleagues. I have trained in traditional Chinese understandings now for 20-something years. And I know I will be learning until the day I die. It's such an incredibly complex, utterly simple in many ways, and so deeply complex in others. So simply by understanding some of the key associations with each element, you begin to see, I really use this element in these situations. Predominantly, perhaps I'm this element or mixture of these 2 primary elements. It's a really beautiful way of bringing more compassion for other people as well. It really helps you understand. We tend to think that our way of experiencing the world is the way other people experience the world.
Right.
And actually,
that gets us into a lot of trouble.
It does. And it prevents us from accessing a lot of wisdom and compassion, doesn't it? Because we just can't really comprehend that someone could come at something from such a different perspective. And not a perspective out of manipulation or ignorance or trying to prevent you from experiencing it your way, but a really true and deep, different experiencing of the world. And I think learning and understanding about the 5 elements can really help bring far more understanding into that situation. And I've used it in my family so strongly because it's such a beautiful way to kind of easily language and chat about differences.
And is the goal to bring those elements more in alignment like the chakras, or is it you're always going to have 40% wood and 60% kind of divided up amongst the others, or is it like 40, 30, 20, 10, 10?
Exactly.
Math is not my thing, so hopefully
math is not my thing either. I get in terrible trouble when I try talking about 5 rhythms and percentages, so I'm not even going to. But you're born with a specific ratio. Now, how well you can dip in and out of that ratio is the key to balance. So let's say you're someone with that beautiful, powerful wood, and you trample over other people in your desire to get things done. Well, in a lot of ways,
I have never done anything like that.
In a lot of ways, then that individual needs to bring more of the earth energy into balance in their system, because then they'll be able to say, all right, although I really want to get this done and I can see that A, B, and C really need to get out the way to let me get that get that done, how you might chat to, meet, understand, and be in relationship with A, B, and C will be very different, because you're bringing that big wisdom and compassion of earth in there. So being able to access, not always in fullness in relation to each other. So you, with your beautiful big wood energy and your big drive to do things, you will have learned to have mitigate that in some circumstances, which means that you've learned to balance more of the water or more of the earth to bring your wood in its most gracious fullness. So it's this weaving, flowing between all of the elements that can be so key.
Well, and that makes so much sense. Again, I'm always trying to tie spirituality or this energetic side to the psychological. It becomes that awareness. So if you feel like I'm a wood energy and sometimes I bulldoze through things, I do need to bring in more of, like you said, the earth energy or the water energy to calm things down, to maybe soften a little bit. And then you start applying that in your everyday life. So then relationships might shift, right? Everything kind of falls more into balance as a result.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the graces for me. I have a lot of that metal energy. So I could say that I strive for excellence, but in reality, when I'm a little unchecked, I strive for perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for me, I need to bring in some of the fire, laugh at myself, get a bit more playful in there. My beautiful husband is a earth and waters are some of the most playful energies that there are. So he's always reminding me of just like, let's chill out. Let's take it easy.
That's
So
awesome.
It's these beautiful ways of just, recognizing our strengths, recognizing the ways that we haven't got our full expression in that element, and nurturing that.
Okay. This is all coming together for me. I'm glad this feels like my own tutorial in all of this. I guess that's the joy of hosting the podcast. I get to ask all the questions I want to ask, and I don't need to worry about someone else thinking, why does she keep raising her hand asking all these questions? You can only imagine me in class, right?
Yeah.
In school.
You'd have been one of the big pioneers for everybody else.
I love to learn. Okay, so now let's move into the chakra system. So we've got these elemental rhythms, and now we have the chakras, which all align with different organ systems, right? And different parts of, like, just help me kind of understand that a little bit more.
Well, seeing as we started with kind of understanding the elements, and we can go right into the chakras through that lens, because up until your heart, every chakra is a specific element. From the heart, it gets a little more interesting, because we have, and here we're really working with the four main elements of the lower chakra being in that place of an incredible earth energy, but actually it's earth with a fire energy coming right up through the middle of it. So you can almost imagine or think about a volcano. Yeah, you've got that big earth point, but you have a fire that can fuel the entire physicality of your body system as it moves through these vibrational levels of your chakras, but of all that you are. Deeper than your chakras, inside that energetic core, are three dantians, three energetic centers. And the chakras are informed by those energies coming out of the energetic core. The energetic core being that soul energy. So we've talked a bit about the concept of vibration. Well, in every part of your body system, there are three vibrations. So what we could call the vibration of the physical, the vibration of the mind or the connective, and then the vibration of the sacred. All of them have their own level of vibration, their own level of consciousness. All of them are utterly essential for each other. You know, we have a lot of emphasis in our culture now to continue to increase or raise or higher our vibration. But for me, that's an old paradigm way of thinking. I think there's a beauty in continually transforming, evolving, but we've got to evolve down into our physicality. Our kindness stems from us being human beings. So we've got to transform down, out, and up. Yeah, we are a whole vibration. And it can get very difficult, and our language tends us to think linearly. Everything higher is better than everything lower. And actually, the truth energetically is very far from that, in that as above, so below. We need the whole to be in its most evolved balance in order for us to radiate that essential life force, soul energy, life purpose out into our day. So that lower dantian, deep behind your belly button and kind of tucked right in the core of you, that governs the energy of the first 3 chakras. So that lower one being the earth and the fire, the second chakra being that beautiful energy of water, playfulness, innocence, being willing to show up just as you are with no mask, no necessity for presentation, an amazing, sweet, deep authenticity. And then we get to the solar plexus, this place just at the bottom of the sternum, which is a big, strong fire energy. And the clue's kind of in the name, isn't it? Solar, sun. Got this big fireball which can show up there in that middle chakra too. And then we move into the heart energy. And at this place, we switch from the lower dantian energy into the middle dantian, because at that point, we've got the movement up into a different level of connection. The first 3 chakras really holding that, like, who am I? What am I doing here? Who are my people? Where is my passion? What am I here to do? Then we get into this middle dantian area, which governs the solar plexus again as a meet point, solar plexus, heart, and throat. And that the energy of those chakras are far more concerned with, how do I connect? How do I understand my relationships? Who am I in relationship to other people? Why am I here on a bigger level? What's the kind of collective? What am I here to do as a human being amidst other human beings? And then from that place of expressing truth, listening, experiencing, we move into the place of the upper dantian in our head. And here we definitely move much more into that collective then, the place of being able to understand that we are not isolated. It's not only that we're not contained or connective in direct ways, but actually we are existing at far greater levels of connectivity across the planet. And then finally, all of that energy is housed within your auric membrane. All of this information coming in, coming out, and that auric membrane is hardwired into the cosmic energy, so that you, me, all of us, 7 billion of us right now and rising, are all here as part of the cosmos. We are individual cells being activated, activating ourselves, activating each other, so that we can be part of the emergence of a new cosmic understanding. Long answer to a simple question, Amy.
Super helpful. So when a chakra is out of alignment, or there's a chakra's off, when you see it, is it off center, or is the color less vibrant? Or you're nodding.
Yeah, rarely off center. I would say I've only seen that in, probably 2 or 3 people in all of the millions of people I've seen. So very, very rare there. Much more, the vibration of the chakra is not in sync, or not in its kind of playful, expansive interconnection with the rest of the chakra system, and therefore with the aura, with the electrics, with the every other part of your body system. So The color may well be dimmer. The vitality. I think it's really easy to think rather than thinking in terms of color, because people can attach different colors to different meanings. And in my understanding of energy systems, color is, of course, just a vibration. And let's say that you have a purple streak through your aura, or that your throat chakra is particularly purple right now. That's simply a snapshot of what is occurring vibrationally in your system right this second. It might change in a millisecond, it may change in 3 weeks. It's simply a resonance that is occurring at this moment. So let's not get hung up on colors. But if we think about the fact that you have the capacity to be an amazing beacon of vibration, beacon of light. Your incredible vibration will be beaming out of you. But now let's say that your second and fourth chakras are really working with how you show up in this world. How do you be authentic, and how do you express that authenticity? How do you show up in your relationships as you, not the you that you think you should be, or that your parents told you should be, or all of those other things? So maybe those chakras, instead of being in their dimmer switch turned up, maybe they have their dimmer switch turned midway down, or even really low. Now, at that point, maybe they're playing patterns of I'm not good enough, or if I show up in my authenticity, people will laugh at me. No way can I be that vulnerable. Who am I? And so then, instead of that incredible radiance coming through your chakra system, your entire system, there'll be more like little bleeps of sparks of information, of energy, underneath a kind of more constant, just, low dimmer switch. And those are the places that we step into when we go into a room and we're going to meet new people, and we feel cowed. We feel, I can't show up in my fullness. I can't be me here. Maybe we reach for that glass of wine to give us a little bit of false courage, or maybe we put on a big bravado and we step into that arena with a different sense of confidence to get us through. But instead, we could work with that chakra itself. We could work with nourishing and nurturing the energy system, so that when we go to step into that room, the places of strength and balance in your system are holding and supporting those other programs of imbalance. And they're nurturing them, saying, let's just be honest here. Let's show up in whatever way we can do right now. And how do we want to show up? We want to show up as us. So it's that beautiful interplay between where the strengths are already in your energy system, in your body, in your life, in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your everything, and how you can actually use those massive strengths to nurture the places that are holding the old programs, the old patterns that simply aren't serving you anymore.
And so if someone came to you with that, what does the work look like? Because they would come to me and say, I have a hard time at parties, right? Like I have social anxiety. I can't leave my house. Or when I go to these parties, I feel uncomfortable. So I drink, and then the drinking gets me into trouble, right?
Yep.
And then we solve it. We work to understand it from a cognitive place.
Yeah.
What does it look like for you?
So for me, the first place I'm going to look at is whether their system is energetically grounded, because absolutely guaranteed it's not. Or even if it is, in that instance, the minute they start talking about going into that party, the system will unground. So first place to be would be to help evolve that pattern. Our energy systems move all the time in patterns. When they're healthy, I call them patterns. And when they're not healthy, I call them habits. That once healthy pattern was knocked off somehow. Maybe there was a situation in which that person was in a public situation and felt very unsafe, or was ridiculed. My goodness, as children, obviously, we can be incredibly cruel without any intention to be so. And that pattern gets knocked off enough, and maybe a repeat of a situation, and suddenly it's a strategy. It's a strategy, a habitual energy comes into that part of your system. So the first thing I want to do is reassure your whole body system that it's safe, grounded, and that you belong within the cosmos exactly as you are. And that's what being grounded feels like. Now, Amy, for you, you are a deeply grounded person. Your energy system is hardwired into that kind of connectivity. Mm-hmm. And there's not much that could knock that off. There's some, of course, but not much. And your resilience, therefore, is strong. But for a lot of people, that pattern just doesn't hold in the way it can do, in the way it deeply needs to. And so when we learn how to reprogram and just remind our own system, so much of working with energy is remembering, remembering the habits that got in play back into the healthy patterns. So if you can have a grounded energy system, so I would be helping that individual understand what practices were particularly powerful for them to ground. And then they'd be practicing them. They'd be going through their day. And when they thought, oh, I don't feel safe in this situation, or I feel unsure, or she said that if I was grounded, I'd feel happy and resilient, and I don't feel either of those, then they do that practice. So that actually quite quickly we're able to repattern that energy system so that now you're actually being held in exactly the way you're designed to be. But for many people, they haven't experienced it for years. Mm-hmm. So that's always our start point, unless someone like you, deeply grounded, in which case groundedness isn't a challenge. Right. It's the fact that somewhere else there's a little pattern that's become part of a habitual coping strategy, and we need to understand how to heal it into its flow again.
Got it. And that is all things that you see as like, I'm assuming it's a clair for you. Like you have a stronger clair, and is it clairvoyance for you?
I definitely clairvoyance. I have like a very interesting form of synesthesia. So actually none of my senses are perhaps as we might expect them to be. So certainly I see energy, but I also feel it very strongly in another person's system. I know it without having to think about it. I have a lot of verbal information as well. So I hear vibration. So yes, I think all of the clairs are merged in very many interesting ways in my system. But sure, so if we're talking about me individually, then I can see that, I can perceive that through many senses with people. But also when we think about ways of kinesiology, something like Touch for Health kinesiology, they're energy testing for it. So there's many different ways that we can understand our energy systems. Really, I think the most powerful thing is that if we have even the most simple understanding of them and 2 or 3 practices that can help evolve them. So if we know how an energy system feels in us when it is in balance, by which I mean, let's take the aura as an example. If my boundaries are great, if I feel I can go into any situation and feel relaxed, connective, not affected by crazy lights or crazy noise or other people's energy, not affected negatively by any of that, then I know that my aura is doing its job and it's holding me in that beautiful big strength. If it's not, I also know what that means. It means I'm going to feel vulnerable. I'm going to feel imposed upon by other people, energy, places, things. I'm going to feel vulnerable and probably unsafe. Now, I know practices that can simply, quickly, I can think about them. I can be in the middle of a group and think, oh, my aura's just taken a hit for some reason. Okay, let's just do this simple practice. Mm-hmm. Or I can use it with my hands. I can take my consciousness to it. So now I understand my energy and I can bring in the corrective way to make sure I'm in my biggest place whenever I need it.
And again, you say energy, but I would also say like people could identify this through their feelings, right? Like, ooh, I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Totally.
And so that's the auric field taking that hit of being out of balance.
Yeah, it could be, but something like uncomfortable, as an example, could be anything, couldn't it? So we need to track it a little bit more. Let's say, I feel uncomfortable. Well, what does that mean? I feel right now like
Susie's judging me in the corner.
Okay, so Susie's judging me in the corner. Beautiful. Then one, we want our aura up, and two, we want understandings of our second and third chakras. And why can Susie judging me impact me in any way? Gotta love Susie. That's all about Susie, and that's not about me. Or if it is about me, it's because I've got a trigger there, I've got a shadow there. So let's solve that one in our energy too.
Oh, this is so great how it's just working so beautifully with how I think too. This is so clear for me today. Despite the medicine I took last night, I was saying before we got on, my back has been really bad. So I took a muscle relaxer last night, which I do not often do. And I'm a little bit out of it today, but not out of it enough to understand what you're talking about here. So let's talk quickly about the heart field.
One of the most tangible, dense, for me, delicious energy fields, because you know our modern science uses the electromagnetic energy of the heart field in modern science now and medicine. Yeah, so for our ECGs are measuring that amazing electromagnetic field, and I think as human beings we really have a very deep sense when we're with someone who has that big, strong, vibrant electromagnetic energy coming out of their heart. We immediately feel held, seen, loved, safe. All of those factors that make our own heart field respond and also deepen, expand, hold us more grounded, hold us more joyful and resilient. So your heart field is a really fascinating place between the body system, this thick electrical energy, the place of consciousness, of mind, of heart wisdom, because of its resonance from the heart organ, the place that it shares that resonance through the entire body system, through the information in the blood, amazing part of the heart field, and also the place of being able to express the soul energy through that area as well. We have an incredible part just off our heart. Maybe if you were to put your arm right out in front of you with your fingers pointed out, then about where your elbow crease is, about that distance away from your body, if you pop your hand in front of your heart, about there's an energy system that is part of the heart field called your assemblage point. And that assemblage point is where your soul energy and your heart energy come forward into your daily life. You can think of it as an amazing guiding light that you follow as you walk your soul path. The heart field is one of the richest, most profound energies. Although don't let any of the other energy systems hear me say that, otherwise they'll feel upset.
They're all important. This one's just a little bit more. A little bit stronger.
Exactly. This one holds the rhythm of the body. We know from the amazing work that organizations such as HeartMath are doing that the field of the heart and the coherence of the heart govern the coherence of the brain's electrical field as well. But I would say it's far more than that. The coherence of the heart governs the coherence inside the nucleus of every single one of our cells. So when that heart field is pulsing, resonating, connecting in that place of coherence, then actually it's governing every other energy system, with the exception of the energetic core. That is by far the deepest energy. It's that soul energy. So how the heart field is determines everything about how we can show up in our daily life.
Last question. You say energy equals power.
Mm.
How,
Yeah.
how does that come to be? Is that just when our energy is aligned, our life force just moves through us clearer, so it gives us more power?
I love that, Amy. I think that's a beautiful way of saying that. For me, energy and power are utterly synonymous. We can't separate those words. So if we just think about how we may use them, we say, oh, I feel really energized today. I think we could just as easily say, I feel really powerful today. Or, blimey, every time I'm with her, I feel she just drains my energy. Yeah. Every time I'm with her, I feel she drains my power. We could go on and on.
Right.
So
But I think why it's so important is because we are encouraging people to think about the words they use all the time in a different way, and to pay attention then to how you yourself can take responsibility for those interactions. If there's someone that you're with every time they drain your energy, then we have to look at, okay, why do you keep putting yourself in situations with them? Or I guess the flip side of that would be, or we can figure out why that person zaps your energy in that way and strengthen your energy, right? Like both of those could be a way of dealing with that. Or would you go one route versus the other?
No, I think, yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely as I would look at it. No one can take our energy, eh? No one. I hear this concept of energy vampires, and I disagree very strongly with it. Nobody can take our energy. We can have boundaries that collapse around some people for sure, because they're working on old patterns, old habits in our system that we need to retrain around that type of person. We can have triggers in ourselves, a bit like we were just talking about, Susie, judging you from the corner. We can have triggers in ourselves. So now Susie's looking at you and she's looking you up and down, and suddenly you're taken right back to when you were at school and you weren't wearing clothes that you felt comfortable with, or weren't trendy enough for the social scene at that time. And all of those really old stories can take your system down. That's not Susie. That's your programming, your stories. And so now, if we understand, let's bring a bit of balance and healing to those stories in whatever ways you work with. Yeah, for me, I share in my book a very powerful story that I went through when I couldn't speak up. Now, you can tell from this podcast, Amy, I have no issue speaking now.
The energy has realigned where that is
the
concerned.
energy has realigned, exactly. And for me, that was working with my chakras. But for someone else, it might be held in a different part of imbalance in their system. So exactly, when we take our attention to language, when we take our attention to understanding how we can work with our energy, how we can work with our stories, because stories are energy. They're some of the most powerful energy we work with, aren't they? Then we get the opportunity to invite spaciousness into our system, into our cognitional, into our emotional, which is all energetic, into our physical. And once we've got space, we've got the potential for healing.
Oh, I love that. Once you have space, you have the potential for healing. What a beautiful way. We'll end there because it's just a perfect way to wrap this up. Prune, if people are interested, your work is fascinating. Your book, which is incredible, is like an energetic Bible. Can't really see it so well because of the light. There we go. Your Radiant Soul. It's amazing. Lots of highlighting and underlining happening in here, notes and everything. Where can they learn about your work, what you're doing, workshops that you have?
Well, thank you, Amy. And one of the ways that we can come right back to where we started is my crazy name, because it means that there is no other Prune Harris out there, which makes it very easy to find me. My website is pruneharris.com, and you'll find me on Instagram and also on YouTube. I've got hundreds of videos on ways that you can work to help your own energy. And at the moment, actually, it's perfect timing, really, because I've got a fabulous ebook on my website that you can download for free that really looks at elements and all kinds of other juicy understandings of your energy.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Prune, for your beautiful energy today and for really helping me, and hopefully the listeners as well through my questions, understand all of these energetic systems and how they all work. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Amy. I've utterly loved it and
Me
sharing
too.
this chat with you. Thank you.
Like what you heard today and want to hear more? Wondering what comes next and what it all means? Head over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts and hit subscribe. Also, if you could take a minute to rate and review my podcast, I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned as we continue to explore life, death, and the space between.